Our co-hosts on the day, former Delegate John Doyle. Mr. Doyle, welcome back as always.
It's wonderful to be here.
Jefferson County Prosecuting Attorney Matt Harvey.
Good morning.
And via telephone, President Gordon Gee. President Gee, good morning. Rob,
good morning. How
John,
are you?
Matt, great.
Here to hear glad to hear one of my favorite delegates is on also.
Yes.
John, how are you?
Excellent. Yourself, Mr. President?
I'm doing great. It's wonderful to hear from you.
Yeah, I heard that you were on, so I wanted to make sure that Mr. Doyle was here for you.
Yes, well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, very nice. So, Dr. Gordon Gee, our guest here on the program, what brings you to the Eastern Panhandle today?
Well, first of all, we get great students out of the Eastern Panhandle. We have wonderful alumni and friends, and as you well know, we've made a major commitment with WVU Medicine in the Eastern Panhandle, and so I wanted to come and have a chance to visit, say hello to a few people. And as you know, the chair of our board, Rick Pill, is from the Eastern Panhandle. The first chair of the board, when I came here, Jim Daly, is also from the Eastern Panhandle. And interestingly enough, they're the only two appointees we've had from the Eastern Panhandle. We need more from that part of the world.
Well, there's certainly enough alumni around here. It shouldn't be too difficult,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the hospitals first. We can get into the board later, and then what you're up to next, sir. But let's talk about that tie-in and the future of it too, because it has been a major upgrade, I'm sure, for a lot of the hospitals to have access to the research and the facilities that are tied in with WVU on this.
Yeah. Well, about 11 years ago, we made a determination that we were going to build a world-class health system for all West Virginians. And it's taken us a while, but we are there. We bought 26 hospitals, and we now cover the lives of about 90% of West Virginians. When I came here, West Virginians were leaving the state to get great health care. Now, no one needs to leave the state. No child needs to leave the state with WVU Children's, which is a world-class children's hospital. So we really believe that the health care in this state has vastly improved. But more importantly, and I know that John would agree with this, more importantly, without great health care, we can't have a great economy. We can't have great progress, because if people are worried about their health care, you're not thinking about jobs, opportunity, creativity. And so that's really been a polar star for the institution. Albert Wright, who is the president of WVU Medicine, is a magician. We've got a new magician over in the Eastern Panhandle, Mark O'Hearn, who is just fabulous, and we're so grateful to have Mark there. And, of course, we're expanding WVU Medicine in the Eastern Panhandle all the time.
Yeah, we've had both gentlemen on the program, and they are both very impressive, I have to say. Mr. Doyle.
And, Mr. President, you're absolutely right. Without first-rate health care, we really don't have a shot for a good economy.
Yeah, I think John can remember that we really focused at the university. We developed a plan, which was that we'd focus on education, we'd focus on healthcare, we'd focus on prosperity, and we'd focus on purpose. And we really have tried to do that. But when my first year, I determined that I was going to visit 55 counties. We did it in about 6 weeks. Nearly killed me and everyone else, but we did it. And I've done all 55 counties every year almost. But what I discovered in my first time was that, gosh, we had all these health deserts, and we had food deserts. And so we really decided we were going to concentrate on the health piece to get us to the point that we could really concentrate on education and job creation. And, I'm very proud of the role the university's played. As you may know, a lot of people don't know this, but the university is the largest employer in the state. We have, with WVU Medicine, about 37,000 people who work for the university. We're the largest economic driver in the state. So we have a particularly important role to play for West Virginia. And West Virginia, of course, is our home, and we belong to 1.8 million West Virginians. And so we want to be very responsible and very focused on the future of West Virginia.
Go ahead, John.
Mr. President, you're finishing your second segment of time as president of WVU. I wonder if you could tell us, what do you think, as you see it, the biggest differences between the two segments of time?
You know something, 40 years difference, because I became president in 1980 and left, unfortunately left to the state and went to Colorado, then back to Ohio, etc. So I've had a journey. This is my 40th. I'm finishing my 45th year. So I've seen a lot of changes in higher education in West Virginia. When I was here, it was a good institution, not necessarily a great institution. It was a good institution serving the people of the state. I returned to an institution that is one of the leading land-grant institutions. It is an R1 institution, which means that it is one of the major research universities in this country. It has done a great job in terms of educating West Virginians. You just think about all of the West Virginians that have had access to a great education, and one of our goals, of course, is to keep West Virginians here and to grow our numbers as well as our economy. And I think we're doing that right now. So it's a much different institution. It's a powerful statement about how an institution can grow and develop, but also how an institution can remain committed to the people that it serves.
Matt Harvey.
Dr. Gee, good morning. Looking back at your last term, what do you want the citizens of West Virginia to remember about your time the most at West Virginia?
Oh, I'm not a legacy guy. In fact, someone asked me the other day what I was going to do next, and I said, well, I still got 2 weeks to run the university, and I'm going to be a warrior right to the end, because I think that the people who I work for deserve that, and I want to make that happen. But I think that, legacy-wise, I think that the best thing I can say is the fact that I'm a convert. I'm a West Virginian. I've got, my home is here. My home is at the Greenbrier. We're going to have a little pied-à-terre here in Morgantown, because I'll remain very involved in the university in an appropriate way. But I think my legacy is the fact that I was conquered, and I am committed. And I really want people to remember me as someone who really fell in love with the state and wants to be now a part of it.
Mr. President, this is John again. I think you started into it there with that answer, but I'm interested. What do you plan to do in your retirement, other than the things that you just mentioned?
Yeah, well, John, retirement is a four-letter word, as you well know. So I think that I'm trying to forget that. Well, I have a lot of opportunities, but I'm going to remain very committed to the university and to West Virginians. But I will do some other really interesting things. We've got a great new president coming in, really a fabulous new person. Young, energetic, really creative, and who believes in the future of our state and our university as we would hope any president would. But I'm not going to be a Bigfoot. In other words, I'm not going to hang around and try to be overshadowing him. I guess that's the best way that I want to say, as if I could overshadow anyone. I'm only 5'5" and 140 pounds, but I think that. So next year I'm going to be sort of a vagabond. I'm going to do some really interesting things, but I am very concerned about the future of higher education in this country, and I've been given a great platform after 45 years, and so I intend on using it. And I'm very concerned about the future of our country. I'm a patriot. I believe very strongly that our best days are ahead of us, but we've got to get over these political divisions. We've got to stop talking about each other and talking to each other. I'm concerned about young people. That their number one characteristic, by the way, of the young people in this country right now is that they're lonely. Believe that. They're lonely. It just is so disconcerting to me, because they've kind of lost touch with the human condition. And the other thing is that when right after I left Ohio State, they did a survey of college-age students, and about 5 to 10% of them felt that they had mental health problems. It's now about 65%. In other words, we've got a mental health crisis among young people in this country. And those are the things I want to concentrate on, I want to talk about. And let me just add, I'm very engaged in trying to solve the problems of college athletics. I've been the co-chair of the college football playoff. I'm working closely with the new presidential commission. I'm engaged in trying to get Congress to pass a bill that will protect college athletics. So that, to me, is enough to keep me busy for a while.
I was going to mention your successor. I was just going to suggest if he can get the baseball team to the finals of the College World Series, that would be wonderful.
We've got a great baseball program, and he's very lucky. Not lucky. I told him, that he, and by the way, he's a great sports fan, and he loves baseball, and he would spend a week in Omaha with his baseball team. They would have had to have given me a shot and send me somewhere to spend a week anywhere doing something like that. But he's going to be very good about building on our sports programs. Of course, we have, in my view, the best young athletic director in the country. I just want to say that. I want to give a shout out to Ren Baker, who I think is a remarkable leader and has done so much to really turn our program into one of those programs that people envy.
Dr. E. Gordon Gee, our guest here on the program, president of WVU, as he said, for another couple of weeks here, and he's in the Eastern Panhandle today. You mentioned your successor, and of course there was a process in place to replace you, an extensive search process. There's not 100% of happiness there amongst the board in regards to how that process went. Have you addressed that with the board at all, and do you get involved in that,
yes.
or is that away from you?
One of the reasons I came here is the fact that West Virginia had a great governance process. We had a great board, still have a great board. I think that that it was not controversy over the selection of the president. There was some controversy over the fact that there was a process that some people felt was not as fair as it should be. I think with Rick Pill as our chair, who is such an ecumenical guy who is a healer, that he's really done a lot to help to heal some of the wounds, and will continue to do so. I'm very hopeful that our governor will reappoint Rick to his second term. He's one of the great West Virginians. By the way, let me just say something about him. He has never missed a home football game in 63 years. Can you believe that?
Tough one.
And during COVID, I had to dress him up as a security guard in order to get him in because we weren't allowing any fans in. So he looked a little awkward in that uniform. But I'm so grateful to him and grateful for the friendship we have in addition to the leadership he's provided.
Is the dissatisfaction with that board background noise, or do you see it as a serious problem?
I think it's background noise. But let me say something. In today's world, given all of the challenges facing higher education, the challenges facing our university and facing our state, no board will serve the people of the state if there's not agreement. If there's division, then we have a problem, and we have to solve that problem. And I view myself as a healer and a weaver, and I'm going to be very involved in making certain that we move forward together and that everyone supports our new president.
Dr. Gee, going back to Rick Pill, since he's a panhandler over here, well-known panhandler and well-respected for sure. You know what I mean. He lives in the Eastern Panhandle. John Doyle. Stop.
We're all panhandlers.
We all panhandlers. But I was, and I mentioned this to Rick. I can't think of a more dynamic time to be the board president. That the time that he's been on, and had that privilege and honor. But with all the changes in the coaches and your position, obviously, can you think of another board president that's had to lead the board through such a dynamic time?
No, I tell you something. I'm going to give him a Medal of Honor of some kind or other, because we really threw everything we could but the kitchen sink at him. Changes in presidents, changes in coaches, changes in legislative activity, a variety of other things. Rick has been just a soldier. I mean, he has been a warrior, if you want to use that word, and he's led from the front. And I think that's one of the issues that a lot of people need to understand, is that being a board chair in today's world is not simply being involved, but it's being really truly engaged, and he has been that. Rick and I talk every week. We spend an hour on the telephone every week, and he gives me my instructions, and I tell him what's going on, and but through that process, we've developed a friendship that I will always cherish.
And I agree with both of you about Rick Pill. He's one of the most level-headed people I have ever met in my life. And I hope me saying that doesn't damage his chances with Governor Morrissey.
Well, by the way, John, level-headedness is exactly the word, and of course he has this volatile, red-headed university president wearing a bow tie, so he had to hose me down every once in a while. There's no doubt about it.
You mentioned athletics earlier. Can college athletics survive at most of the schools under the current conditions?
No. Simple answer, no. That's the reason we've got to get things changed. College athletics is an important component of the spiritual nature of our country. I know that sounds a little grandiose, but it really is. You think about West Virginia. We don't have professional teams. We have those mountaineers, and people will go to the tops of their mountains and turn on their radio to listen to Tony Caridi. And watch or listen to our team, and so we have got to figure out a way to make certain that college athletics survives for all teams. We are very fortunate to be in one of the four power conferences, as they call them, and in that group of 64, I think that West Virginia University itself will be fine. But if we don't preserve the opportunities for the rest of the Division I, for the Division IIs and IIIs, if we lose that spirit of competitive opportunity, I think we have lost a lot in terms of the spirit of our country.
I agree.
Do football and basketball ultimately become, at the collegiate level, essentially paid minor leagues for the professional teams?
Well, right now it's hand-to-hand combat out there with everyone trying to throw money at folks. I laughed. One of my dear friends is the president of the University of Texas at Austin, and I asked him. I said, is Arch Manning, their young quarterback, is Arch Manning going to leave to go to the NFL? And he said Arch Manning could not afford to leave to go to the NFL. It shows kind of where college athletics is going. We've got to get our arms around this. Otherwise, it's disastrous. And what is happening? First of all, let me just point out that only about 1% of student athletes in Division I institutions will ever see a paycheck from the NFL or the NBA. We just need to understand that it's not. Everyone has the aspiration to be the next LeBron James or some other great athlete, but that is just not going to happen. Very few make it, and so the educational component of this remains critically important, and we have lost that in all these conversations with the House case, with the Albright case, the other things that we've been dealing with. So we've got to get back to some fundamentals, and the only way we're going to do that are two things. One is the fact that university presidents need to be disciplined, be in charge, do things that they haven't been doing. I'm the poster child of bad behavior, by the way. I have hired a lot of coaches. I've fired a lot of coaches too, but I've hired a lot of coaches. My dear friend Urban Meyer, and he is my dear friend. I broke the bank to bring him to Ohio State, and so some of these things, really, university presidents have not been as responsible in putting pieces together. I think that presidents need to be in charge, and I think the country, I think the legislature Congress, I'm saying, needs to develop a strategy that gives us. By the way, I would change the Broadcast Act of 1961 to give us the same allowances that the NFL and the NBA have and Major League Baseball. Those are going to be the components of success.
Fair point at the end. I've got 30 seconds left. Dr. Gee, final word is yours.
Well, I'm so grateful to be able to be doing what I've been doing. And let me just say, I really do think that we're all privileged to live in West Virginia, but you are very privileged to live in the Eastern Panhandle, one of the most beautiful parts of America and one of the most historic parts of this country, with great people and great schools and great opportunities. And by the way, a great health system. Have a great day, everyone.
You too, Dr. E. We appreciate your time this morning. Thank you kindly.
Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. E. Gordon Gee, president of WVU, as he pointed out, for a couple more weeks, and he intends on serving those 2 weeks with everything that he has, giving it all that he's got. I'm going to send us out here with the WVU fight song there, and you can hear that in the background as we get ready to wrap it up. I was all for student athletes getting paid, John and Matt, but I didn't envision it to be what it is now, and I don't think it's sustainable the way it is now.
I was never in favor of them being paid. I am now, but not the way they are now, and I agree it's not sustainable the way it is now.
Final minute on the way after this.